Okay, let's jump right into a story that is frankly one of the wildest geopolitical situations happening right now. We're talking about Greenland. Yeah, that massive, frozen island up north that has suddenly become the main prize in a high-stakes tug-of-war between the world's biggest superpowers.
And it all really comes down to this one question, which, let's be honest, sounds a little absurd. Why on earth would the United States or anyone want to buy a giant block of ice? It sounds like the setup to a joke, right? Well, the answer could literally reshape who holds power for the next 100 years.
So first, just to get a sense of the place, try to wrap your head around this. A whopping 80% of Greenland is just buried. It's covered by a permanent ice sheet that in some places is over 2 kilometers thick. It's this absolutely immense frozen world.
And the number of people who live there? It's tiny. Just 57,000 people, most of them living in little towns dotted along the coast, where life is actually possible. We're talking fewer people than you'd find in a single large sports stadium.
And yes, it is cold. I mean bone-chillingly, unbelievably cold. The average temperature is around minus 30 degrees Celsius. So we've got a vast, icy, nearly empty, and frozen land. You have to ask, what is the appeal?
Well, that question exploded onto the world stage when former U.S. President Donald Trump basically said the quiet part out loud. He wasn't shy about it at all. He made it clear he wanted to buy Greenland, and in doing so, he dragged this quiet, century-old obsession out of the back rooms and right into the global spotlight.
And that's the real kicker here. Trump's idea wasn't some random new thought. No, it was just the latest, loudest chapter in a long, persistent, and mostly secret American obsession with this giant island.
And what's wild is just how consistent this has been. I mean, look at this. The first attempt was way back in 1867, right after the U.S. bought Alaska. They gave it another shot in 1910. Then, after World War II, President Truman got serious and offered $100 million in solid gold. And then, of course, Trump brought it all back in 2019. This has been on Washington's wish list for over 150 years. Now, after that 1946 gold offer, Denmark, which has sovereignty over Greenland, said, no thank you, they weren't selling. But, and this is a huge but, they did agree to a compromise. They let the United States build and run military bases on the island. And that moment, right there, was the beginning of America's permanent strategic foothold in the Arctic.
So why the constant push? It can't just be for a few military outposts. Well, a huge piece of the answer, the real prize, lies hidden deep beneath that 2-kilometer thick sheet of ice.
You see, Greenland is sitting on what can only be described as a geological jackpot. It has massive, completely untapped deposits of something called rare earth elements. And these aren't just some random minerals. People call them the oxygen of modern technology. We're talking about the essential stuff you need for everything from electric car motors and wind turbines to the most advanced AI chips and military radar systems.
And this chart, wow, this tells you everything you need to know about America's motivation. Right now, China controls something like 90% of the global supply of these critical minerals. That gives them a powerful chokehold on pretty much every tech industry on the planet. For the U.S., getting access to Greenland's reserves isn't just a business opportunity. It's a matter of national security, a way to break that monopoly.
And it's not just the rare earths. Get this, geological surveys estimate there are at least 31 billion barrels of oil sitting under the seabed in just one section of northeast Greenland. The total amount of untapped oil and gas could be absolutely astronomical.
Okay, so let's shift gears from what's buried under Greenland to its position on the map, because you could argue its location is even more valuable than all the treasure beneath it. Geographically, it is the absolute strategic center of the entire Arctic.
And here's why that location is so critical. The U.S. has a major installation there, Thule Air Base, which houses this incredibly powerful early warning radar. Now, if you look at a globe, the shortest path for a missile to travel from Russia to North America is right over the North Pole and directly over Greenland. This radar gives the U.S. its first and most critical warning of a potential attack. Without it, the U.S. is dangerously exposed.
But it's not just about what might fly over the island. It's about what's flowing in the water around it. Think about it. Almost all of the data that connects North America and Europe, the internet, financial transactions, communications, it all travels through a handful of undersea fiber optic cables. Many of these vital lifelines pass right through the waters near Greenland, making them a huge vulnerability. If you control Greenland, you can protect the arteries of the modern global economy.
So we've got buried treasure and a fortress-like location. But there's a third, absolutely game-changing piece to this puzzle, a wild card that climate change is slowly putting on the table.
You see, for all of human history, the Arctic Ocean was a frozen, impassable wall of ice. But as the planet warms up, that ancient ice is melting. And as it disappears, it's opening up something sailors have dreamed of for centuries, a new navigable sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, the legendary Northwest Passage. And the numbers here are just mind-blowing. A ship going from Shanghai to London the old way, through the Suez Canal, travels about 20,000 kilometers. This new Arctic route cuts that distance almost in half. It shaves 10 to 15 days off the trip and saves millions of dollars in fuel for a single voyage. This isn't just a shortcut, it's a revolution for global trade.
And so, the great game for the 21st century begins. Russia, with its enormous Arctic coastline, wants to control this new highway and tax everyone who uses it. China is calling it a polar Silk Road, a fast lane to get its products to Europe. And the United States? It is terrified of being left out in the cold. And Greenland sits right at the front door of this new superhighway. If you control Greenland, you control the toll booth for the future of world trade.
So, when you put all the pieces together, the rare earth minerals, the vital military base, and now control of a new global trade route, you start to see why the stakes are so incredibly high. This isn't just about one island anymore. It's about the entire global order for the next century.
But here's the really explosive problem. Greenland belongs to Denmark, a founding member of NATO and one of America's closest allies. And the absolute core principle of NATO is that an attack on one member is an attack on all of them. If the US were to try and take Greenland by force, it would be attacking an ally. The entire NATO alliance, the bedrock of Western security for over 75 years, would probably shatter overnight. The fallout would be monumental. Sure, the US might become the undisputed Arctic superpower, but it would come at the cost of its most crucial alliances. China's mineral monopoly might be broken, but the massive mining required would devastate a pristine ecosystem. And maybe the most dangerous part, it would send a message to the world that we're back in an era where might makes right, where powerful countries can just take whatever they want.
So, at the end of the day, the melting ice in the Arctic isn't just revealing new shipping lanes and mineral deposits. It's exposing the deep, dangerous fault lines in global politics. What happens next with this giant frozen island could very well be the difference between a future of cooperation or a future of catastrophic global conflict. What do you think is in store for Greenland?